let's debate the so-called student loan debt cancellation program and who will ultimately be paying for it financially and politically. With tonight's Bream Team panel, Fox News contributor Leslie Marshall and Project 21 co-chair Horace Cooper. Great to see both of you. I gotta say, when reading up a little bit more on this today, I stumbled across this piece in Newsweek. It's an opinion piece by a gentleman named Charles Stallworth. He's a union railroad worker. This is what he says under the headline, "Student loan forgiveness is a left-wing trickle-down economic theory." He says, how much of an elitist do you have to be not to give a damn about the cruelty of demanding that blue-collar workers who didn't go to college chip in and pay off student loans that they didn't take out? Horace, first to you.
Look, if you go to college and you rack up $60 or $70 or $80,000 in debt so that you can get your Elizabethan poetry major that it qualifies you to be night manager at McDonald's, you need to pay for that, not the rest of Americans. This is the worst kind of elitism. This is the president and his party paying off their supporters who overwhelmingly have picked up these kind of woke majors at these expensive colleges.
Well, and Leslie, as Kevin was reporting there, it sounds like when you look at how this would break down, the people who would benefit the most are people who maybe need the loan forgiveness the least. I mean, people who have college degrees that are relatively successful, or at least in a position to pursue some type of career. And as we talked about, both the left and the right, to some extent, are mad about this. Senator Bernie Sanders tweeted this out. He talks about the loans that went out to businesses during the pandemic. He says, if we can afford to cancel hundreds of billions in PPP loans to business owners in their time of need, please do not tell me we can't afford to cancel all student debt for 45 million Americans. Leslie, the far left says, forget this $10,000 forgiveness. The White House needs to get rid of all of it.
And it wasn't just people on the far, far left. Senator Chuck Schumer also wanted $50,000, not $10,000. Horace, I'm going to poo-poo your poo-pooing these people because there are doctors out there, people who went to medical school, like my husband.
They should pay their own
Wait. There are many people right now who are general practitioners who started about $87,000 a year and have about $500,000 in debt because you have to go to school so long to become a physician. You not only have college, you have med school, you have internship, you have residency, you have fellowship. The list goes on. But I digress. Back to Shannon's question. First of all, this was the cheapest path, if you will, for the president to take. Second of all, this isn't about Democrat. Horace, I was quiet when you talked. Give me the same respect, please. This is not about Democrat and Republican. Former President Donald Trump, unless I missed it, is not a Democrat. He had a pause. He had a certain level of forgiveness and a certain timeline. And then when we're comparing it budgetary-wise, this is less than half of the defense budget. I could go on where it lies. And then lastly, this is not profitable for the U.S. government to be giving out these loans anyway, economically.
Okay, to the economic and budgetary point of this, the National Taxpayers Union Foundation says the cost of student debt cancellation could average $2,000 per U.S. taxpayer. So when you say cancel, this doesn't just go into outer space forever and vaporize. I mean, somebody's going to pay for it, and it looks like about $2,000 per U.S. taxpayer. They say it's also worth noting that the $329 billion cost of student debt cancellation is more than the Congressional Budget Office, again, nonpartisan, estimated the entire Inflation Reduction Act reduces deficits in the first decade. So, Horace, if they do this forgiveness, it wipes out that giant package they just passed and told us was going to get rid of inflation, or at least part of the deficit.
Well, that's just another lie. We're not going to discuss the Inflation Reduction Act, but I do want to make sure that people remember there is the 13th Amendment. It says that we can't have slavery. People aren't forced to go into medical school. They're not forced to go into banking. They're not forced to become stockbrokers. They're not forced to do any of those things. They make a choice. A moral hazard is created when you say to people, run up $500,000 worth of debt, and then turn around and say, hey, you're a janitor, hey, you're a plumber, you're gonna pay for mine. That's unfair, that's unjust, And it's just another example of how this president and this administration are paying off their core supporters at the expense of everybody else.
Well, and Leslie, there are Democrats and Republicans out there saying they worry that this will allow or enable or embolden colleges to keep hiking up their tuition if they know that people can then go get forgiveness for this somewhere, ultimately benefiting the colleges more than anybody else.
Well, this is one of the reasons I think that the president took and got angry, responses not only from the NAACP with regard to people of color, but also from Democrats in the progressive faction, like you had mentioned earlier, Senator Bernie Sanders. And this is a problem that we have. To go to Oxford University in the UK, if you are a citizen of the UK, is $9,000 a year. So certainly the exorbitant price of colleges and universities in this country is something that has to be looked at, but not something that the president can decide or can undo with a pen and a piece of paper.
All right. Leslie and Horace, always great to have you and to have you together. Please come back soon.
Looking
Thank you,
forward.
Shannon.
Thank you.
All right, as a Justice Department filter